I'm going for something a little different for this review. Like Peter Capaldi and He Who Moans and that John Cranston guy, I like to draw Doctor Who stuff. Not particularly well, but I do it all the same. Especially when I'm listening to Big Finish. So I figured I'd try to reflect that in this video and also give something a little more interesting than just a still image of some cover art. Infernal Devices is the second set of audio adventures from Big Finish featuring the War Doctor during the Time War. I was a little bit mixed on the first set, the review for which you can see here, but it did seem to be going in an interesting direction. And the more I heard about the second box set, the more confident I was that this was going to be a triumph. All the problems I had with Only the Monstrous seem to be addressed here. They've got 3 sets of loosely linked stories instead of one 3-parter. They've got 3 different writers in, including John Dorney, who wrote The Masterful Red Lady, and Matt Fitton, who's done some terrific work for Big Finish as a writer and script editor. And, most importantly, they're exploring the high-concept time weaponry that's been alluded to during the new series. I.e., they're putting the time back into Time War. Unfortunately, I couldn't help but come away disappointed, underwhelmed, and unengaged from all 3 of these stories, and there are a few reasons why I found this to be the case. The first of the set, titled Legion of the Lost, sees the Time Lords using resurrection as a means of rebuilding their armies. There are some fascinating ideas in this series, including weaponized fluxes in time, people getting wiped from time completely, and the aforementioned use of resurrection. But with most of these, they seem incredibly underdeveloped, failing to explore the consequences in interesting ways. In the second story, A Thing of Guile, we're barely given time to register the result of the Dalek experiments, why what they're doing is happening, or even the consequences it could have. I'm not saying these stories should be longer by any means, but it feels like there's a lot of unnecessary build-up instead of using a more economical writing approach. And another thing, the War Doctor just doesn't work for me. It seems like the writers have drawn on what we've seen of him in The Day of the Doctor, where he's worn out from all his fighting and wants to do the right thing. But what they fail to realise is that this is after hundreds of years of being a blood-soaked warrior. As a result of this, we're given a tediously passive character that can't drive the story forwards effectively. Throughout most of these stories, the War Doctor simply stands in the corner talking about the moral implications and telling everybody else how horrible they're being. This is meant to be the man who drank a potion that made him into someone who could take part in the war, but this really doesn't seem to be the case here. In all honesty, the War Doctor acts and behaves in a way that any Doctor would do, so the main selling point of this living contradiction of a character is rendered pointless and dull. The third story by Matt Fitton, titled The Never When, is definitely an improvement on the first 2. We get to see the War Doctor in action rather than simply talking about how wrong everything is, and the story features a great twist. Infernal Devices had a lot of potential, but I can't help but feel that these great ideas were rather underdeveloped and unsatisfying. With the War Doctor's moralising becoming increasingly tedious, it's going to take some time before I can come back to these stories again. You can purchase Infernal Devices and other War Doctor stories online at bigfinish.com. I'll be reviewing Doom Coalition 2 and the 10th Doctor Adventures set next, so subscribe if you want to see more. You can also check out our website at FiveWF.co.uk, where you can find a written review for Big Finish's first series of Torchwood audios. Toodles!